So it was ultimately when I was able to start seeing an ND where things started to shift. She looked at me as a whole person, all the different body systems, my medical history, habits, and started piecing everything together. And so from that point forward, I knew that this was the kind of doctor that I wanted to become, and someone who had the opportunity to spend time connecting with patients, listening to their story, and essentially just inspiring the person sitting in front of me to be more active in their own healthcare journey and take that active lead.
Welcome to the Advanced Women's Health Podcast, where we empower women with the latest insights and advice on holistic health. From cutting-edge medical research to practical wellness tips, our mission is to help you thrive at every stage of life. Join us as we explore topics ranging from hormonal balance and reproductive health to nutrition and mental well-being. Whether you're seeking solutions for a specific health concern or simply want to enhance your overall wellness, you're in the right place. Let's embark on this journey to better health together. This is the Advanced Women's Health Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the Advanced Women's Health Podcast. I'm your host again today, Dr. Alessandra Autieri, and I'm excited for today's conversation because we're actually introducing a new naturopathic doctor to our team here at Advanced Women's Health. She will be at our Port Credit and our Toronto West locations. And although she is new to working and seeing patients at these clinics, she is not new to the Advanced Women's Health family. This is Dr. Karina, and in this episode, we will talk about her journey into naturopathic medicine, the types of concerns she loves supporting, and what patients can expect when you go to see her. So let us dive in. Welcome, Dr. Karina.
Well, hello to everyone listening. I am super excited to be here, and thank you to Dr. Alessandria for sitting down for this conversation. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. We're so excited to have you. So why don't we start, of course, with a little bit of a tell me about yourself. So can you introduce yourself and share a little bit about what brought you into naturopathic medicine and to become an ND?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about me, like you mentioned, I am now practicing in Advanced Women's Health in the downtown Toronto and Port Credit, Mississauga locations, both in person and virtually. A couple of fun facts about me. I grew up in North York until about grade 6, at which point my immediate family and I moved to Dubai. So I've lived a little internationally. And then I eventually made my way back to Ontario for school. I love playing tennis and boxing. I'm a big foodie. So whether that's trying a new local spot or new cuisine or a new recipe at home, you name it, I'm in. But diving right into my naturopathic journey, I think that journey might resonate a lot with individuals who found this area of medicine, whether they're a patient or a practitioner. My awareness of holistic healthcare started at a very young age, but my appreciation for naturopathic medicine really began when I was going through my own health struggles later on. So, on one hand, my mom is a chiropractor. She had colleagues who were naturopathic doctors. And then on the other hand, I had my grandmother and other family members who had really integrated a lot of, the natural remedies, herbs, nutrition into their daily lives. It was just part of every day. And so the values of root cause healthcare and combining Eastern and Western practices and lifestyle were a very fundamental part of growing up. And then at a younger age, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. I found the human body very cool. I loved learning about physiology and how it all worked. I loved connecting with other people. And so I knew that this was where I wanted to go, but the specifics were very undecided. And so jumping forward to the years between, I don't know, grade 10 and early university, that's when I personally took a bit of a hit to my gut health. And then from there, my health overall changed. And so one by one, different symptoms started to creep in that nobody could really piece together. Changes that I thought were just kind of part of being busy, part of normal life, adapting to living away from home. But in hindsight, were the aftermath of significant gut dysbiosis and this general low-grade inflammation and metabolic function and, just a touch of nervous system dysregulation. So it was ultimately when I was able to start seeing an ND where things started to shift. She looked at me as a whole person, all the different body systems, my medical history, habits, and started piecing everything together. And not only was that perspective huge, but it was how she went about doing it, having the time to explain what was actually happening, why these patterns were occurring, and making clear the purpose behind why we were moving forward with whatever treatment plans we were. Right. And so from that point forward, I knew that this was the kind of doctor that I wanted to become, and someone who had the opportunity to spend time connecting with patients, listening to their story, and essentially just inspiring the person sitting in front of me to be more active in their own healthcare journey and take that active lead. So from there, I went on to complete my undergraduate degree at McMaster University and then my doctorate of naturopathic medicine at the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. And sometimes I joke that my going to CCNM was full circle because I was literally born at the North York Hospital across the street. And so geographically, it was like a full circle moment. But yeah, and over time, I've come to realize that many of us in the field, again, whether you're a practitioner or a patient or oftentimes both, you find your way here because you've experienced what it feels like to not have the answers. And so that perspective shapes a lot of the care that we provide.
100%. I think all of these intro podcasts have that in common where
Yeah.
we all kind of share a little bit about our own journey and we each have our own, I guess, health concerns that kind of brought us into this world. But then we have such a strong passion for helping others in the way that we were helped. So, yeah. And I love that full circle moment. Like
Yeah.
North York was really calling you.
Yeah. It was just like I had to come back,
Oh my
right
gosh, that you
across
were
the street.
born there. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
all the way to Dubai, and then
Mhm.
we were like, "No, North York is
Coming back.
calling us back," right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah, and we'll definitely have to go to a boxing class one day because that is awesome. So,
I would love to.
hearing your history with your own health concerns, I want to assume that I kind of know what certain patient populations you'd be interested in treating. So why don't we go into that next? Are there certain patient populations, certain health concerns that you feel really drawn to and that you especially enjoy working with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the patients that walk through my door have been struggling with their health for so long and have felt dismissed or just looking for those answers again so that they can start moving forward. But in terms of areas of focus, surprise, I do love working with digestive concerns and gut health optimization in general, because we also know that dysfunction in our gut can show up in so many different ways outside of just digestive symptoms. So I love working with that. I love working with insulin resistance and supporting metabolic health. So whether that's, you're struggling with fatigue and energy levels, stubborn weight or weight loss resistance, anxiety, mood, that piece of health plays a role in all of that. And then my other area of focus is hormonal health concerns. So PCOS, endometriosis, PMS, thyroid dysfunction, and then really that perimenopause and menopause transition, because there's so much shifting in that period beyond just what we know to be the estrogen fluctuations and decline. And so there are changes that inherently happen in metabolic functioning, in gut microbiomes, in the immune system, in the nervous system signaling. So just working on that full picture in that transition period is really interesting. But yeah, that being said, the beautiful thing about naturopathic medicine is that despite many of us having a focus area that we love to see a little bit more of, we're looking at the whole person in front of us, right? So everything's connected and we're always looking into how the different systems are speaking to one another. And we know that when we support the body as a whole, digestion, metabolism, hormones, you name it, we often see improvements that ripple far beyond the initial concern.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we talk about that on a lot of our team calls as well. And one thing that really did come up on the call was integrating for patients how much each system of the body is connected and how much we can, treat a couple areas for a patient and then we see those ripple effects downstream. So that is awesome. I'm happy that you brought that up. And I guess on that note too, maybe we can dive into what you wish people knew about naturopathic medicine or like working with you, working with an ND in general. What do you want people to kind of take away from this conversation?
I love this question because I find that once you start understanding what naturopathic medicine really has to offer, it can be very eye-opening. And there's a whole slew of things, so I'll try and keep it down to a few. But at its core, we know that naturopathic medicine is about identifying and addressing root contributors rather than just simply managing your symptoms, right? We're guided by those foundational principles, supporting the body's inherent ability to heal, treating the whole person, identifying underlying causes, and using the least invasive interventions necessary. Sometimes that's diet and lifestyle habit changes, a supplement or two, herbs, pharmaceuticals, acupuncture. But more often than not, it's the right combination of all these things, right? So we're trained in a wide range of modalities and we have a broad toolkit to choose from. And so that allows us to then tailor our treatment plans to the individuals sitting in front of us rather than just, doing that one size fits all approach. Another piece that's really important is that naturopathic medicine is both therapeutic and preventative. So if someone's feeling well and wants to optimize their health, improve resilience, reduce long-term risk factors, that's absolutely within our scope. And if someone is coming in because they're struggling with specific symptoms, kind of like we've talked about, we are addressing those immediate concerns, but then we're also thinking ahead. So just, for an example, if a woman's coming in with concerns about perimenopause and symptoms around that, that's the immediate goal. But we're also having conversations about metabolic health and cardiovascular risk and bone health and whatnot, and what we can start doing right now to then support her long-term well-being past this point. So it's not just about feeling better today, but it's about setting up the future in a very proactive way as well. And then the last thing I think is important for people to understand about naturopathic medicine is that it's inherently collaborative, whether that's with the patients or with the healthcare model as a whole. So it's not about replacing other forms of care, but integrating with them and working together, whether we're working alongside family doctors, specialists, therapists, whoever else is appropriate at the time. And just as importantly, working with the patient and collaborating with them so that we're not just dictating what you should do, but it's a conversation, right? We're adjusting based on what's realistic, what's sustainable, what's actually moving the needle. So you're not choosing one thing over another, but it's how we can all work together because it takes a team.
Yeah, I know. I love helping patients build their healthcare team. It's
Yes.
something that if we don't start in a first appointment, we definitely start pretty early on because, I'm a master of what I do and what we do, but I can't do all the things. So having other professionals and practitioners in there to help with other areas of our health is really how we get the best outcomes for our patients.
Today's episode is brought to you by none other than Advanced Women's Health. If you are interested in diving in deeper to your health, if you are finally ready to feel like yourself, and you are finally over hearing everything's normal, everything's fine, and you want a deeper dive into your healthcare, then we are here to help you. We are currently helping patients in British Columbia and Ontario, Canada. But don't worry, if you're in another province, still reach out, get added to the wait list as we expand coast to coast. We cannot wait to work with you. Check out the show notes for more information on how to get started.
So you mentioned, we don't want to dictate what people should do. It's more of a conversation. So let's talk about that conversation. Let's talk about that first appointment with a patient. So we can break it down to if someone's never seen an ND before. I know some of our listeners are currently patients of Advanced Women's Health, and we love you. But in case you found this podcast or you got this kind of referral from a patient to listen to this podcast and you've never seen an ND, why don't you walk us through that first visit?
Yeah, absolutely. The first visit is pretty extensive, right? You filled out a detailed intake form and I've gone through it. So we're both coming in with a very general idea of what we're working on and what your goals might be. But then we're sitting down for 75 to 90 minutes to really dive in further, right? I'm always coming in with a compassionate and empathetic lens because I strongly believe that the symptoms that you're walking in with are the ones that those are the ones that you've gone out of your way to seek care for. They're not random. They're part of a bigger story. And so a huge part of what we're doing and what our work together will look like is hearing that story in detail and starting to understand what's going on and kind of where to go from there. So that initial appointment is for you to share and for me to ask you lots of questions, coming in with that lens of curiosity and that so that we can understand the timeline, what's helped, what hasn't helped, what your stresses are, what diet looks like, and anything in between. And also to identify what pieces of information are missing, right? What blood work or testing that we need to do to then answer those questions and ensure we've got a complete picture. So then going back to the point that care is not a one size fits all. So once we've kind of had that conversation, my approach is very simple. Instead of chasing symptoms, I'm focused on understanding what is going on in your body and why your body is responding that way. And that usually means looking at kind of the things I've mentioned, your gut health, your blood sugar regulation, your stress, your internal and external stress, hormones, nutrition status, and then creating, again, that plan that's individualized to your specific symptoms, your physiology, and your health goals. And my goal is to create that collaborative and empowering space so patients are able to make very informed decisions about their health and actively participate in their well-being and just feel confident in how to work with their body.
Yeah. And then in terms of that plan too, so after we have that conversation with the patient and we kind of go into the treatment plan, especially at the end of the appointment, we're usually leaving 15 minutes at least to go through the treatment plan with the patient. What are some treatment tools and maybe protocols, whether that's supplements or blood work, or what do you like to use with patients in your practice?
Yeah, blood work is a huge piece. There's always something that we need to kind of dive into a little bit further and get that data side as well, right? To kind of pair with the presentation and the symptoms in the conversation. But in terms of treatment side, So clinical nutrition is a huge piece, right? Our food can be an incredible tool to support our health. So really understanding not just what we're eating, but how we're eating and how that's contributing to insulin resistance or nervous system dysregulation, whether we're eating rushed or not chewing enough, all those different factors. And then, of course, yes, what we are eating is important too. So are we having enough protein, fiber, polyphenols, vitamins and minerals, water? We actually just spent a whole weekend away with some of our colleagues learning more about the intricacies of protein consumption and metabolic health and kind of how to use this to support your overall health, your weight loss resistance, your muscle growth. So, some really cool things to keep an eye on in the upcoming weeks and some programming to be rolled out at Advanced Women's Health. Yeah. And then other things like lifestyle counseling. So, what does movement look like? What does sleep look like? How are external stressors affecting our day to day? And then impacting our internal physiological stressors. Of course, targeted supplementation. So, nutraceuticals and herbal products, using those with intention, right? So, picking ones that are actually going to address multiple factors and being able to clearly explain why or why not we're giving something rather than just overwhelming patients with a whole variety of things, because there are so many things that, we could throw at something, but it's a matter of identifying what actually is going to move the needle. Acupuncture. Yeah, those are all a bunch of tools that I love to use in the office.
Yeah, especially that targeted supplementation. Whenever I'm meeting with a patient in the first appointment, I like to make it clear that, what I'm giving them isn't going to be what they have to take for the rest of their lives. Like what I'm giving them, especially in that first visit, is meant to move the needle and to heal something, to improve a symptom, get them feeling better. And then we can transition into other areas of their health and other pillars of their health and foundations that we can like keep pushing them forward. So I think
Yeah.
that's where like the target really comes in. Especially, like, supplements, botanicals, treatments in general. I think all of us are biased towards our favorite that we like to use. We found it work either all with us or with a lot of our patients. So what is your favorite treatment? Like supplement, botanical? Yeah.
My favorite. There's so many to choose from. I don't know if I can pick one, but in terms of like a supplement product, I do love the Mito formula by BioClinics. I know a lot of us found that really helpful for a variety of reasons. So that's a fan favorite. Something that's really foundational, but I do love is vitamin D. So
Mm.
I think like almost everyone who walks into an ND's office is more or less deficient in vitamin D. But it's so important for so many things: immune function, bone, muscle health, mood, metabolic support, autoimmune. Like there's just vitamin D is important. And especially living in Canada, we know that we don't get enough sunlight. Whether or not that is the only place you should be getting your vitamin D is another conversation. But a lot of Canadians are even more vitamin D deficient. That being said, from personal experience, living in a sunnier and warmer country like Dubai, even there people are vitamin D deficient, because just because you're in a warmer place doesn't mean that you're spending all of the time in the sun. So vitamin D is a another fan favorite. I do love holy basil or tulsi. It's an adaptogen. I feel like it's one that we kind of forget sometimes, but I love it. I find it really calming and grounding when I have it as a tea. There's a tea I love that has that with ginger, which is another favorite. So many benefits from a digestive lens to inflammation. Just very warming and comforting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy that you went through, like, something so foundational like vitamin D. We got a little supplement, right
Yeah.
here, we got some botanicals. Yeah, you hit all of the important spots. So, if people are listening to this and they're like, "Okay, I wanna now copy Karina's favorite things. Like, this is exactly what I'm gonna start doing. I'm really resonating with this ND." Let's go into non-negotiables because I recently just did another podcast on non-negotiables. So, I am super interested in hearing what people's non-negotiables are and their healthy habits. What do you prioritize in your own routine?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think first and foremost, I'm prioritizing a good breakfast. Something that
Mhm.
is higher in protein and fiber, of course, with the delicious matcha in hand, but essentially something that's going to sustain my energy throughout the day, be a positive influence on my insulin levels, and just really start the day off right so I can function at my best. Breakfast truly is that most important meal of the day. I do love to include some sort of gratitude practice in part of my daily routine, whether that's writing it down, speaking it out loud, what I'm grateful for at the end of the day before I go to bed. But this could also look like just saying thank you to the people around you and kind of sharing that gratitude with others in the room, because it brightens up your day and it brightens up the others in the room that you're speaking with. So I love that one. And then walking is a big one. So movement in general is huge for a variety of reasons that we could go into forever. But walking is just great as a gentle form of movement, being intentional about it to start off your day, take a break in the day, decompress. So I usually try and integrate an extended walk at some point in my day. Yeah.
Yeah, you just went for a walk right now before we
I
recorded.
did.
I was wrapping up my lunch and Karina headed out for a walk. So I actually totally agree with the breakfast. I love breakfast. It's my favorite meal of the day. Personally, I also love a matcha. I love a dirty matcha when you need that
We've talked
extra
about
little bit of caffeine. We talked about that when I saw you on the weekend. So these are great. I also think gratitude journaling is both kind of underrated, but I also know it's pretty popular in like mainstream media. It
yeah.
is so helpful to reframe your mindset.
It's really helpful, and I think it doesn't have to be super complicated, right? It's
Mhm.
like 3 things that made you happy today: the sun, the person you were sitting next to, someone did something positive for someone else and you witnessed it. Like, it could be the smallest of things, and you can just jot it down. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but it can be really helpful in just shifting mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes we take these habits or that we want to integrate into our life and we overcomplicate them and we create all these obstacles around them. When
Yeah.
it does not have to be that serious. It doesn't have to be that planned and that organized and that perfect.
Yeah.
So that's great. Now, I'm sure people are already taking some really good ideas from listening to this podcast, as I hope they are. But maybe what's one or two simple things that you feel like people can do at home, maybe starting today after listening to this podcast to support their health?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, no matter where you are, there's always something that we can tweak and change, whether you're already on top of everything or you've neglected it for whatever reason that's, been
Mhm.
more of a priority. But there's 2 ways I could kinda go about this. So one is more from a strategy lens. So you could start by just taking stock of what your daily habits are and kind of identify which of those are really helpful and which of those aren't and how we can shift that. Or you can split your habits into different categories, right? So nutrition, sleep, movement, social, emotional, spiritual, financial, whatever categories you kind of wanna put together, and then see which of these areas you're doing really well in and which kinda need some more love and care. But outside of that, in terms of being more specific, some small changes that can have huge impacts: fresh air first thing in the morning. I know it's not always sunny in Ontario if that's where you're listening from, but even if you just get out for that fresh air, we did that this weekend and it was amazing to just get out early and get some fresh air into the lungs. That can just it could just brighten up your day. But building on that, if you can get out for some fresh air and go for a walk, great. It's a great way to clear your mind, start the day, just wake up. And then another one that we haven't really talked about too much is water. So getting in your 2 liters at least of water in every day, beneficial for a variety of reasons: cellular function, reduce snacking, and kind of just manage those false hunger cues, support your energy, support regular bowel movements. That's huge. Healthy skin, the list goes on. But those would probably be 3 of the things I'd say if you're just listening in and wanna do something quick that'll have a huge impact. I think that's where you could start.
Yeah, I think those are great foundational tips for people to take away from today. And if you find yourself not doing any of those, maybe it's something to reflect on, or even just one of those, something to reflect on. And yeah, I know you mentioned the strategy piece. That's something we talk about with our patients a lot, is reflecting on your habits, both your good and your bad. And if you do have more like negative habits in terms of how they're impacting your health, why are we doing those? How did those habits come to be? What do we need to do to change them? Can we change them right now? Do we have the capacity for it? So I think
Yeah.
reflecting on where you're at is definitely always the first step into changing and moving in a more positive direction. So that's lovely. I think this is a really good podcast for today for people to get to know you a little bit, Dr. Karina, and for the introduction to our clinic officially, because I know you've been working behind the scenes with our clinic for a little while now in terms of contacting you. So, what is the best way for listeners or new patients to contact you, connect with you, book an appointment at Advanced Women's Health?
Yeah. So the easiest way to book in would be through the Advanced Women's Health website. You can just look under the Toronto West or the Port Credit Clinic page, or you can look under like the team staff bio pages where you'll find the links to either location. So there's a couple different options there. You can connect with me on Instagram at drkarinasamji.nd, where you can learn a bit more about my approach on there and find my booking links there as well. So, yeah, I'd love to connect with you and answer any questions that you have. And a huge thank you in advance to anyone for trusting me with your care. And I'm looking forward to supporting you in your health journey.
Amazing. Well, we're so excited to have Dr. Karina join us at two of our Advanced Women's Health locations, Port Credit and Toronto West. That wraps up today's episode of the Advanced Women's Health podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Obviously, a big thank you for Dr. Karina to be joining me on this podcast today, sharing her passion and all of her knowledge. You'll be sure to tune in and hear her on future podcasts as well. We'll include her booking details in the show notes, but obviously, as she also mentioned, you can reach out to her on Instagram and find her on our website. And yeah, we're just super excited to have you. So thank you for
Excited to
tuning in
be here.
today. For everyone else listening, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss future episodes and share this with anyone who you think might benefit. We can't wait to see you and treat you at the clinic soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you had as much fun as we did. And if you loved today's episode, share it with a friend and leave us a review. That is how we spread this message, and that is how we are going to revolutionize healthcare in Canada for women. Have a beautiful day and be well.